Good morning from Italy, where I'm finally spending some time with my family after this long year. Welcome to the RaizUp USA comeback tour and our third episode talking about employees' sustainability. Let me give you a short introduction of RaizUp and our US chapter before we get going. So RaizUp is a platform that gathers more than 6,000 professionals in an online community that offers learning, training, mentoring, development, and talent sourcing tools. It was created to increase the success and engagement in the workplace for women and other underrepresented groups, and to enable companies to attract, develop, and retain potential diverse talent nurtured by a powerful community. Through this session, you will see a link to the RaizUp community, so please, we encourage you to join us and sign up. I'm Steph. I'm based in Washington, D.C. Normally, I worked in and alongside hospitality for 20 years, from hotel front desk to business development to training and consulting in Middle East and Europe, until I landed in the US in 2018, where I started my consultancy, focused on employee experience first through emotional intelligence-based training and coaching. I'd like Bianca to introduce herself, and then we will introduce our panelists for today.
Amazing. Good morning, everyone from Los Angeles. I'm Bianca Portobarga, and I was in hospitality for 18 years. Sales, distribution, revenue management, although I started in reservations. But last year, I lost my job due to COVID, and I was unemployed for 9 months. And I decided to make a transition and move into technology. So now I work for a company called Ask Suite, which specializes in chatbots for hotels. And today we have with us Michelle Riley, General Manager and COO of Willoughby Golf Club in Stuart, Florida, and Peter Ricci, Director of Hospitality and Tourism Management for Florida Atlantic University. They'll tell you a little bit more about themselves in a moment. But what are we talking about today? So this is the third episode of our comeback tour, and we want to dig a little deeper into the reasons behind the current challenges our industry is facing around hiring. We'll do so by exploring the candidate's perspective. What are candidates saying? What needs to be highlighted beyond the very important conversation around salary? We'll also brainstorm on how this might be an opportunity for the industry to set changes in motion around some root causes that this pandemic has only highlighted, not created. And you're going to see throughout the conversation that we have a couple of testimonials here. We don't have the names, of course, but from people that are in the industry. So you're going to see those along the conversation. And Steph, on to you. And you're muted.
I had to see whether you were paying attention or not. Thank you. So this has also been one of the sentences of this year, isn't it? You're muted. So Peter, my first question was for you. So according to many researchers, and one in particular, the job list research that was recently released for Q2 2021, a third of hospitality workers will not return to the industry. And I know that that also matches one of the surveys that your university has done. A third say will not come back. Well, looking at the data, I was really, my attention was caught by one data in particular, which is 69% of respondents said that nothing can be done to change their minds. No salary increase, better benefits, joining bonus would lure them into returning. So, as you can see from the comment as well, that says, you see at the bottom of the screen, many hospitality workers that they were laid off felt betrayed by the industry. My question for you is, when FAU offered a certification in hospitality management and an astounding number of people joined and completed the course, you mentioned that you received millions of comments. And so I wondered, how is the data that a third will not return resonate with the emotions described in the experience of students that went through your course, maybe also throughout the pandemic in the different phases of it?
Yeah, the certificate was something that exploded that I could have never imagined. We always had 50 to 100 people every time we ran our annual certificate. And we're well past 80,000 now that either registered, had interest in, or completed the certificate. And we did it as a gesture of goodwill to keep people engaged during COVID. During the we had to run them through, and Bianca would know this, she's a tech person now. We could limit to a maximum of 20,000 people per wave so that we were more effective and the system didn't crash. And it was in 165 countries at once. So there were always issues of some sort. But the first wave was very delighted to be out of work and on vacation, so to speak, and take a break from their day-to-day long-term careers in hospitality. The second wave toward the middle of summer were a little more pessimistic. They were fearful of running out of PTO, paid time off. They were experiencing furloughs, some of them. They were hearing about layoffs, et cetera, and they were running out of money. The third wave was really where the bitterness began, and people felt very betrayed by the industry, that they were terminated too quickly, that their businesses stopped operating. And, this confounded me because there really was nothing else the business could have done. But I think it was the matter of fact, very rip off the Band-Aid style that many of them experienced that gave them a sour taste. And we were getting comments on every social media channel. I was getting upwards of 3,000, 5,000, 8,000 emails a day, 10 to 100 written letters a day, voicemails until the system would fill up every hour. And we were only the conduit. We didn't mean for this to happen. So looking back, it seems like people went through a stage of disconnecting from their historical crazy 50 to 70 hour weeks and had time to think about what they were experiencing. And the outcome is nothing that I could have ever guessed. I thought everybody would rush back, we'd be super happy. And when I read these comments that nothing would bring me back, it startles me, because most of us in hospitality, it's very addictive. And you love it for your whole life. And you may try to do a 9-to-5 office job, but you usually always come back. So the word I always use is I'm still confounded. I really can't get my arms around what is happening.
Yeah, when you say that there's a love relationship with that industry, and so probably that word betrayal fits very well. So you mentioned we went from being delighted to have some time, from the craziness to pessimistic, and then bitterness. And so I wonder how these emotional stages as well can inform us into what needs to be done. How can we turn this bitterness into excitement again? And I also, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that what you see is also drops in the number of people enrolled for the future.
That's particularly disconcerting for me now. I mean, I've been in the business my whole life since I'm 14 as a dishwasher, and I've spent the last decade and a half in higher education in hospitality. Nationally in the U.S., hospitality college enrollments have been on the slight decline steadily for the past decade. But after COVID, there's been a precipitous, immediate drop-off. And I have not spoken personally to a lot of the leaders in the European schools, but I've read some of their emails and data, and it appears to be a global phenomenon. I hope that it's short term. This business has attracted me my entire life. It's flexible. It's enjoyable. You get to meet people from all over the world. I mean, look at us. You're in Italy. Bianca's in the West Coast U.S. I'm on the East Coast U.S. in the middle, and we're able to have a fun conversation. So I think we're resilient in the long term. We've made it through the oil crisis in the 70s. We've made it through SARS. We've made it through 9/11. We've made it through tsunamis, hurricanes. It's just a matter of getting people re-engaged in the positive aspects of what we do. But we are in a strange situation because this is mass exodus. It's not confined to Indonesia with a tsunami or New York with a terrorist attack. It's global. And that's the difference. And also, we're in the 21st century with social media. So the comments continue to be global and reinforce more of a negative message than I would like.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. I agree, and as I shared before, I think I hear very similar stories in Italy too. I like what Tiffany said in the comments, saying it feels like we're going through a grief process. So I wonder at what stage will we eventually find that excitement again that you're mentioning, Peter. Bianca, over to you, and thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Yes. And this is actually a question to Michelle. Michelle, hotels and clubs and restaurants have experienced a welcome increase in occupancy, and the staff shortage has posed questions around how to cope with higher occupancies while being short-staffed. This creates pressure for those who are indeed back at work and find themselves covering multiple roles and working even longer hours, and I've been hearing this a lot from colleagues. I heard from a colleague the other day, he used to manage 3 hotels and now he has 7, and he doesn't have a team helping him out. So you can imagine the situation he's in. A positive sign is that in May, 1/3 of last month's hiring came from bars, restaurants, and hotels. So Michelle, what has been your experience and what have you heard from colleagues? What have you implemented to retain your staff in the face of this challenge?
So we're in close communication in club management. It's like hotels, we all talk to one another, and everyone is struggling and everyone is nervous, especially in Florida, because we typically are seasonal and lay off staff in the end of spring anyway. That means we all hire at the same time too. So this August, September, October, and we're all very nervous and competing for what looks like is going to be a very small pool of talent. So we've done a couple things here. Like everybody else has looked at wages, benefits, done a drill down of what we have been offering in the past. What are we going to need to offer in the future in order to make it work? Kind of a parallel here for us here in South Florida is there is a housing shortage as well. So employees who previously may have moved to our area in order to work seasonally, there's no place for them to live. The transportation costs, gasoline is high. So if you're going to travel from an adjoining county or an adjacent county, you've got those transportation costs. How can you afford to do both? So really, it's a confluence not only of our industry, I think, but all of these ancillary problems that are floating around in today's world that are just making things that much more difficult. We were able, thankfully, in Florida, due to we do a lot of outside business. So we were able to recall some of our staff as early as last fall. So we had kind of a temporary layoff. I had some staff for catering and banquets, for example, weddings, major events, which we were obviously not doing. Tried to call back my catering manager, and she turned me down. She went out of the industry working in sales. Of course, if you're selling catering events, you can probably sell anything. Got another sales job, tried to bring her back, offered her $20,000 more, turned me down. So I think that oftentimes people who are in the hospitality business may not have a good appreciation for how skilled they really are. Bianca, think about those of people who have transitioned from this business to something else. They get out there and they say, hey, look at what else I can do. I'm pretty good at all this other stuff. So right now for us today, we're working with our current team, and our current team of employees are helping us develop what are we missing? What do we need? What would make a difference for you? Of course, we do employee referrals because that's how we get the best. That's how we get the best people. I had an employee suggest this morning something I'd never thought of. Gee, it'd be really great if you could offer pet insurance. So it's these little crazy that sounds crazy, but we're all grasping at straws, and it's going to be extremely competitive for us to try and get people in the door. I can't even get them to the table, it feels like now. So I'm almost if I could get them to talk to me, I think I could convince them that this could be a great experience and we're willing to work with you. And we give time off and scholarships for school. And we've sent some people to Peter's program at Florida Atlantic University. So we can do it. But if they won't even consider coming back to the business, we're really struggling and nervous about what fall is going to look like here.
Yeah, and again, from someone who left the industry because I wouldn't say I gave up because I'm still in hospitality, selling to hospitality at least. But it was very scary when we talked to some recruiters a couple of weeks ago and we asked them, what are you seeing companies do to retain employees or to attract employees? And crickets, nobody knew what they were doing, because really as an industry, I think we didn't learn our lesson. And I think we'll learn it the hard way, losing amazing people, having people go to do other types of sales because we don't value our professionals. So it does give me hope that you are looking into it. And even if you can get people to come talk to you, at least you're thinking about it. And I think that's a good step. It's a step in the right direction. And hopefully, again, our industry will reconsider some of the things that were, like working from 7 to 5 every day. Do you really have to be at the hotel for all those long hours every day? Otherwise, people look down, on you because you're leaving early. So I think there are a lot of things to be considered. And I'm happy that people like you are taking the time to really evaluate what's important for candidates. So
we do have a lot of women in our senior staff, which I hate to generalize, but we're pretty accommodating for sick children, parent-teacher conference, college. So, we do try to be sensitive to those things, but it is very difficult. One of the things that I've noticed too, so I came to hospitality in a roundabout way. I have a master's degree. It has nothing to do with hospitality. I'm a FAU alum for that point. So, but what I see in hospitality a lot, at least at our level, is a lot of our existing staff and even up until mid-management have not had formal education in the business, which leads to some perhaps less than skilled mid-level management. Less than skilled, less than sensitive, less than compassionate. So I think that these programs, these educational opportunities can help us fill in some of those blanks that people, if you've just come up through the business, some people are great. Some people do that and are fabulous. But I think that the formal education is an opportunity for us and to kind of help. When I go home at night, I may not know what's happening on the floor. Right? I may not know what's happening on the floor of the dining room. And so education, I think, is going to be key to our future and our survival.
Great point. Thank you so much for the comments, Christina. Sorry, I just put it up here, Steph. I don't know if you saw, but great comments. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pop up another comment. So on to you, Steph.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to segue from what Michelle just said, which is a perfect leading to the next question. But I also remember when I joined hospitality, and I joined because I love the industry. I was very curious about it, and I landed at front desk. And I truly had no clue. I didn't do a hospitality school. I had no idea about all the opportunities around me. I didn't know how other departments worked. I just had my window, and then I had to go and search for, okay, what happens in housekeeping, and what does it mean to have a good relationship with the housekeeper? Because that will make a humongous difference, and so forth. So the next question for Peter is that, again, reading through your comments, from the course, many of your students seem to really enjoy expanding their learning around how the industry works, exactly, and all the career opportunities available in it. It just felt as if they didn't have a chance to learn about that before. It was kind of the first time I have the opportunity to expand my knowledge. So how could this be a sign, maybe a direction, a beginning of a direction to take for the industry to evolve? And so to engage our teams, not only as labor, but really as professionals who embark in a promising career.
It's interesting. There's so many things that pop in my head listening to Michelle talk and Bianca's questions. The trend in higher education is to move hospitality programs into colleges of business. We were one of the early adopters of that because the skills of hospitality apply everywhere. It doesn't matter if you sell homes, if you work in insurance, if you're the office manager for a veterinary clinic, you need people skills, you need hospitality skills, but you also need business skills. So the old style vocational, these are the mother sauces, and this is what you do in the kitchen, that has faded away to more of a modern day IT infused business profit and loss statement service model. So I would say that many individuals in our certificate program completely did not know about other segments because of our historical long work hours. So if you work front desk, that's what you know. You hardly even know about accounting or housekeeping in your own building, let alone what a tour operator would do, a destination marketing company, a cruise line purser, or a country club manager. So we have all been very siloed into our segments without time to step back, but the skill set applies to every segment and then far beyond our segments. So I think this exploration in education is very important because I have students who have wound up at adventure tour companies, national parks, car rental agencies like Enterprise, which is a big hiring group here in the US, country clubs. I mean, here in South Florida, we're lucky to have so many country club facilities that they hear about country clubs as a career, but in other states they don't. And in other countries, they may not, depending on what city they live in that country. So the industry is a huge, vibrant service industry. That's what it is. And it doesn't matter now that, Bianca's on the IT side, she still has to do service. If you go to a cafe while you're in Italy, that's one form of service. But if you call the local version of Comcast, it's still service. It's still hospitality skills. So it doesn't matter if it's the cable provider, the restaurant, the bank, the vet's office, the doctor's office. I think we've evolved realizing that our skills, and I like one of the quotes that, or one of the comments that Christina had, is we've always been a business that was designed for us, not for the employees as much. So we decided that a 7 to 3, 3 to 11 schedule is what we needed, not what they needed. So and Michelle's comment on pet insurance ties into this. What I've been doing, and I've been asked to do some consulting now with businesses that really need staff. And I said, listen, if you're spending the equivalent of $1,200 a month per associate on benefits, why don't you let them decide what benefits they want for the same dollar amount? So if one wants cancer insurance because it runs in their family, let them buy that. If another wants pet insurance, if another wants tuition reimbursement, yes, it's a little bit of a nightmare operationally, but that will get you buy-in from your team and not cost you any additional dollars. There was a hotel property somewhere in the Midwest that reached out to me. The GM was so innovative in my mind. She got all of the front office staff together and said, we're open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You all want work-life balance, hash it out and come back to me. And they came back where 2 of them are going to work 65 hours, 1 week on, 1 week off. And some others are going to do 4 days on, 15-hour days, and then 3 days off with no overtime for those extra hours during those periods. And they're super happy. And she said, now I want to see if our guest service scores come up and if we can manage the 7 days a week. So we've just kind of mandated, because we're all so busy, the 3 to 11s always work, leave it that way. Yeah. Let's not think about it. So it's also education on those of us in the industry to listen to the employees and kind of be a little more flexible within reason. Now, Michelle can't close the club on a Saturday night because her team doesn't want to work on Saturday. So some parts are very unrealistic. Other parts are very flexible. But I'm optimistic. I think this is a great business. I think we are often bashed because of starting wages that are lower than our peers. If nothing else, starting wages have already started to raise up, pun intended. And so that's a good thing. The longer term careers in hospitality do pay well. there's been no data that I've ever read out of the Department of Commerce or elsewhere here in the US that shows that we trail in the long term. We trail in the short term starting wages, but not in the long term. That's a message that has to get out there.
Yep.
So, you know, so there's so many pieces to this angle, but education is at the core. Knowing what you're good at, knowing what exists in this huge, vast industry. There's something for everybody in our business. And we just don't, we get too siloed, whether it's cruise, hotel, club. We need to kind of move out, you know?
Yeah, and I like what Christina is saying, that again, going into the learning more about what we can do, what more is there in a hotel, and re-bringing those back would be fantastic. So instead of, it says no more days in the life of each department, which is sad, because it was nice to go into cafes and bar and chat with others about what they do. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing your experience. What I heard you say is that really Peter and also Michelle, it seems that our teams are so valuable and so talented that they are great for other industry to grab and make great use of them. So at the same time, how can we be flexible, listen to them, and to what will make the difference to keep them, and then really look after them? Because I think what I've also been reading a lot is that feeling of not having been looked after, even in the past. And I think that's a very important piece of the equation. Bianca, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to stir the pot here. Thank you, Tiffany, for making it easy for me. But Tiffany is saying here, having worked in both traditional hospitality and the technology side, the tech side has way more perks, salary, benefits, work hours. I can understand the hesitation to return to hotels, restaurants, etc. I mean, I did it. I moved because of that exact reason. Especially, I think the work from home, it was such a big perk. I didn't know it was going to be such a big perk until I started doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in traffic for 2-3 hours a day. And it still kind of baffles me that for certain positions, as we said before, you don't want to have HR working remote. But for certain positions, I don't understand why our industry is so keen still keeping people on site. And I think that would be a great change for certain roles within the hospitality industry. But Michelle, I wanted to ask from you, now that we heard from Peter and some of the testimonials that we put on the screen too, what do you think we could do to reignite that passion for our industry? We are all here, and Stephanie said it well, we all love hospitality, but that love was lost. We felt betrayed. I was one of those people. So what, you were going through this right now and you said a little bit about it, but what else can we do to really entice people to come back?
Well, you know, I stumbled into hospitality myself. I had a whole other life, and I've really only been doing this kind of on and off for the past 20 years. And, you know, I told people during COVID, we were open the entire time in some capacity. I came to work every day. And I used to say, you know, I didn't really think I liked people until we closed. And then, you know, I missed it. I really missed that interaction. So I think for every person who previously worked in hospitality who finds a new love in working from home or working for technology, you know, God bless them, right? It's good for us to expand our horizons and have different experiences. But there are a bunch of other people out there like me who miss that face-to-face interaction, who likes nothing better than to provide really great service to that person who says, this meal was extraordinary. Thank you so much for your help. I love it when someone calls and says, I know you probably can't help me. I know you probably can't do anything about this, but let me tell you my problem. And I'm thinking, I got that. We can figure that out. I have people who will be happy to help you. So I think for those individuals who've chosen another path, you know, it may be the best path for them. But for those of you who are missing the interaction, who are missing that positive reinforcement you get for a job well done and that service that's well provided, I think you're going to come back. I think you're going to miss it. We do enjoy ourselves here. We have a good time. We have to remind everyone how much fun it can be. And that's a lot of That's a lot of pressure on the management team. You know, some days you don't feel like you got a headache, you're tired, or whatever, but you have to put that face on and you have to be joyful for your people. You know, it may be something as simple for us. You know, we provide monthly ice cream socials for our staff now. Small thing. We used to not provide lunch when we close on Tuesdays during the summer for this maintenance staff that work. We now said, okay, yeah, we can do that. They're like, oh my gosh, this has made such a difference in our life. So I don't think it has to be overly complicated. You know, what I'm discovering is that the caring that we might have been so busy, so running around in circles, doing what it was we did, that we forgot that we were working with people who have needs and wants and desires. And it feels like it's those teeny tiny things that are making a difference for my team now, that I think, you know, no excuses. I guess I was too busy to pay attention. That's awful. It's awful. So for us, this has been a good hit in the head a little bit. Pay attention to what you're doing here. There are some real positives that are going to come out of this, I think, for our industry. And it's not that I didn't care about them as individuals. I just got distracted. You know, I just got busy. And I assumed they were okay. I assumed you were fine. Yeah. Isn't it fun working 12 hours in a row, 3 days a week? I mean, one of the things we're doing is so simple. We usually close 2 nights a week for dinner in the fall. This year, it'll be 2 nights in a row. Something's having 2 days off in a row. Small thing, small change. But I think those are the things that are going to make a difference. And it's up to us. And this is a great opportunity for us, really, for me, to communicate some of these things that we're doing. Because how do I get the word out that we've heard you? We've heard you. We've listened. We've heard you. We're really, it's going to be different this time. How do I communicate that to people who are missing us right now in the interaction? How do I get them to come back? That's the question.
Well, here we are, and we're trying that because we are passionate about the industry. And for the record, I do miss those interactions. I do miss being at the desk and meeting people. I know. Hey, I'm not ask sweet. I love you. I'm saying, but I didn't close the door, and I'm still talking to hotels every day. But you know, one thing that came to mind, I remember when I started in hospitality, you would deal with housekeeping, you would deal with people at the restaurant. And one thing that one of the companies that I worked for did really well, and I still remember it, is that once a year, they gave an opportunity for every employee to spend a night at the hotel. And maybe that's a lot if you have a lot of employees, but imagine if you're cleaning a room every day and you never got to experience the feeling of a guest. And when you do, you have a much different perspective. And that really came to mind now when you're saying the small things, right? And I think that meant so much. And you see people dressing up and bringing their husbands and their wives. That was so important to them. And yeah, as the comment that we had here on the screen, we forgot how to be hospitable. We forgot the essence of our business. And I think it's a good thing that we're doing here to remind people that, hey, we heard you, as you said, Michelle, and we are ready to change. That's great. Steph, over to you, because I'm getting emotional here, for real.
Yeah, listening to you is giving me goosebumps. I truly love this business, and the reason why I started my company was exactly because in many of my conversations with teams after training during coaching time, the conversation was always about how the relationship with leaders and the long hours and the work-life balance, and that's why I said we've got to do something about it. But it's also really promising to hear that the industry is likely to really be completely different. So if this can be an invite to people to explore it now, this might be the best time to explore it. One, there are jobs available, career opportunities and growth might be faster, because if you're really good, you might go up the ladder faster. So it makes me think about, maybe I should join a hotel again. So Peter, I would say the same question for you. What would you say? What piece of advice would you give to someone who's on the fence about returning? How would you entice them to join back?
It's just, I mean, it's a fantastic business, period. Like I said, the skills you have will permit you to go anywhere and work anywhere in the world. So that's something that we don't have with other fields per se. You know, the money will come. The starting wages are better now than they ever have been. It's a complete disconnect to me now that I see fewer students, because now is the time that the jobs are bountiful and you can go anywhere. So this is the time to get into hospitality and study. We will learn as an industry how to adapt. We still will have buildings that need staff 24/7, and we're still open 7 days a week. That will never go away. But maybe we'll be more creative, like Michelle said, you know, and like some of these businesses I mentioned earlier, things that they're doing, we can make it work. And it is a great place to be. I know people are answering surveys and they've been home and they're bitter and so on. I honestly don't buy that hospitality people in general will stay away forever. They will either take those skills and infuse them into a role that is very similar, or they will come back in a period of time in a different type of role. But you know, I have, like I mentioned earlier, we offer here a Bachelor of Business Administration. So you're getting a business degree. It doesn't matter what you go into. Your major is hospitality, but you still have a business school degree. So we have students who've gone into luxury car sales, into real estate, into a cancer treatment center of America, which is here. It has a beautiful facilities all over the country. They give guest service, high quality care to cancer patients. So they need hospitality skills, but they're really in the medical business. So the skills that you get in hospitality, whether you're applying them working in a restaurant or at a Ritz-Carlton or on a Carnival cruise ship, it doesn't really matter. You still should think of hospitality in a positive way. And again, you know, I come back to that complete confusion about being betrayed or feeling bad by the industry. There is nothing else I think our industry could have done. We had to shut down, and we did not need the staff at that moment. So it's not like we did it out of spite or malice. It was just something necessary because of a global pandemic. So I'm optimistic. I will remain optimistic. And I think hospitality has given me a life that I would never have had in another field. It's just, you have to feel it every day, and you'll thrive on it.
Peter, I have to say, I'm also leaving this call with a very optimistic feeling. And as somebody said at the beginning of the pandemic, this has never happened, that we had to really shut down. And I wonder what will come out of it. And it seems like a good, time to think, reassess, and regenerate. Seems like what's coming out of here. Bianca, shall we wrap it up?
Yes, unless, Michelle, do you have any final words before we move on with our busy hospitality lives?
I appreciate the opportunity to participate. I think hospitality professionals are optimistic by nature. So I think, I'm very hopeful myself after this call. And I think we just gotta spread the word. We've heard you, and we're ready. Come back. And you're in the driver's seat. What a great time to come back. You can say, this is what's important to me. And yes, I'd love to work for you under the following conditions. It doesn't get any better than that. So come on back.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for inviting us. I wish we had more time to chat, because this topic is just, it impacts everyone all over the world. And, we are the world's largest service industry. And revenge travel, whatever you want to call it right now, has everybody super busy. So, feel free, anyone watching, to reach out to us anytime. I'd be happy to share our contact email here. And we hope to have this chat again next year with less demand for new hires.
There you go.
Let's put it on the calendar. You're always welcome back. And thanks to everyone who tuned in, and go sign up to our platform, RaizUp.com, where you can find some training, some classes, and you can connect with us and to the wonderful people that we bring on this panel. Steph?
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, Michelle and Bianca. It was lovely, a wonderful conversation, leaving me with a very positive feeling.
Great.
See you
Enjoy
later.
your day, everyone.
Have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.
Thank you.